So hello all and welcome. And I'm the Bachelor Philosopher, also known as the Realist Philosopher. And in this video, I'd like to talk about how even the left now, even those loony, lefty, far left, uber feminist, faux media outlets, really, especially in the case of the Huff Post, are starting to admit the truth that we guys more toward the right, we guys that have taken the R pill, have known for really decades and been talking about. And of course, they called us crazy. You're crazy! You're nuts! Saying that women want to be treated like queens is actually going to turn them off. How dare you say that? We want to be treated like queens! Yeah, well, now the truth is becoming so self evident that even they can't deny it. So now they're going to pretend like, they never denied these facts. So let's just jump right into this story, shall we? From the Huff Post. Although I'm sure they'll try to spin it in some way that, you know, makes it seem like it's men's fault. Oh, the title itself is, blaming men, of course. So, from the Huff Post, my husband treated me like a queen. And it made me miserable. Yeah, automatically laying blame on the man. He shouldn't have done that. Meanwhile, they spent years and years and years talking about the you go girl, you slay queen, you're a queen. But now they're saying don't treat them like a queen. So now they're going to try to act like they're not in any way, shape, or form contradicting themselves. I see. Oh, yeah. I know honorable men everywhere are treating women like sex goddesses and queens, but I'm pretty sure that misses the point. Oh, I wonder what kind of direction they're going to try and spin this to try and grant themselves plausible deniability, like they didn't claim the exact opposite just a few years ago. Okay, so here's the author and her hubby. Okay, don't know why you're posting a pic of yourselves, but okay. So the story begins by saying, I'm twisting around to look at my ass in the mirror. Okay. A little too much information. My crack stretches up beyond the top of the tiny bikini my husband has just gifted me. So you're saying you have a big butt, you put on a lot of weight, or that your butt is sagging. Well, if the crack is going up above the top of the bikini, yeah. Guess she's got a little too much junk in the trunk, and my cheeks peek out from the bottom. And I studied the pale flesh spilling out of both ends of my new suit. Sounds disgusting. I wonder how I could ever wear this to our son's swim meet or a family vacation. Yeah. Don't you have any shame? You're not a young woman anymore. You would think you would have some shame, right? And wear something a little more age appropriate. No such thing as age appropriate. Meanwhile, when a guy dates a woman that's younger, how dare you date an age appropriate woman? He grins big and says, baby, it's perfect. You're hot. Yeah, well, keep in mind that he's your husband. And they don't want you to destroy him or withhold sex, which you've probably done numerous times. So he's going to tell you whatever you want to hear. Or you'll divorce him and take half his stuff. Oh, Lord. So she goes on to say, I feel flattered that my bleavage turns him on. Bleavage? Is that a new word? I've never heard this before. So she just replaced the C with a B. So I don't know. I mean, so now instead of being cleavage, which is breasts, bleavage for butt. So it's not a direct one-to-one. Wouldn't it be breasts? So I mean, it's still a B. I don't know. Don't overthink it, I guess. Don't think about it at all. It doesn't make any sense. Bleavage. She thinks she's being clever. And then immediately, anxious that he's horny, it's my responsibility to take care of it. Well, yeah, it is. So why don't you? Why don't you take care of it? Why are you afraid to take care of his horniness? Is something wrong with him being horny? A sex clock starts ticking down in my head, knowing he'll pout if too much time passes before he gets the intimacy he craves. Why is that a problem? I mean, sex and marriage, once you've passed the time when it's your ability to have kids, it still reaffirms your bond and commitment to one another. It's there. That sex is there to reinforce that pair bonding. Why is that a problem? It serves a higher purpose. There's meaning to it. Well, there ought to be anyway, but for some reason you have a problem with it. I see. I see. Yeah. God forbid I give him the intimacy he craves, then he might actually feel like he has some kind of hand and power in the relationship. Yeah. Can't have that. I've got to continue to use sex as a carrot to control him and make him do whatever I want him to do. So already she's telling us more about herself than she does him. Yeah, and none of it good. So when we turn in for the night, hours later, there's a will they, won't they tension pinning me to the bed. What's that? Oh, God. This guy must be a blue pill simp to put up with this kind of crap. Everything with this woman is calculation and manipulation, it seems. Will they, won't they tension. By the way, what does this have to do with treating you like a goddess? Are you saying he shouldn't? Based upon the way you act, I agree. He shouldn't treat you like a goddess at all, but certainly when you act like this, he shouldn't. I mean, he shouldn't anyway, but there's literally, from what I've seen, no positive justification for that. I hope there is some amount of stillness that says no thank you without me having to actually say it. No thank you? What kind of language is that? It's like you're turning down a second piece of pie or something. Or a second helping of a hamburger helper. Oh, man, I dread the passive-aggressive pressure far more than I ever dreaded sex. But you did dread sex? It sounds like you still do. Why are you married? I wanted to have kids! So I found myself a beta male, and he's a beta male if he treats her like a queen. The next day, he huffs and puffs in the kitchen, he slams the cabinet, and offers only one-word answers. Why wouldn't you just give him what he wanted? I bet that's your duty, right? You have a duty. He's given you children. He's provided for his family. Why couldn't you do that? I don't understand what the big deal is. Do you think he huffs and puffs when he had to go to work every day to earn a living, to raise those kids that you wanted? I don't get this. When it comes to men and their duties, they're not allowed to shirk them. And if they do, the woman, the wife, whoever it is going to shame them, nag them, and make them feel like a tiny little morsel piece of a breadcrumb on the floor. But, you know, it's perfectly okay to shirk her duties, because, right, feminism has firmly established, presuppositionally, that any things that are labeled as duties in a marriage for a woman, they're not valid. They're not justified, and I don't have to adhere to them. Oh, I see. Isn't that convenient? But the things that he has to adhere to, no. Those are all valid, because they benefit me. Of course. This was the story of my life with my husband, the first decade of our marriage. I would have dumped you. He's a loser to stay with you. I mean, I think we can already establish this guy's a blue pill beta male loser, because what kind of guy would stay with a woman that's constantly complaining and biatching and moaning about having to fulfill her duties as a wife? The gifts and flattery were part of a cycle that came with unspoken obligations and micro-blaming. So you didn't feel you were deserving. He gave you more than you felt you were owed, and so you felt guilty, and then you resented him for that guilt. Right. Even though you're to blame. Gotcha. Typical. Oh, yeah, they came with unspoken obligations and micro-blaming when I didn't need them. What is micro-blaming? Can somebody tell me what that is? Is it like micro-penis? Is it objectively real? Can I identify it in the real world? Does it have some form? What is a... I don't understand what... Oh, if it's micro. Well, you wouldn't see it even if it existed. Yeah, that's because that's nonsense. Yeah, it's super micro. It's zero micro. It doesn't exist. What is micro-blaming? I don't know what that is. Another made-up lefty term, I guess. It was a theme across our entire relationship, not just with regard to sex. So, basically, you acted atrocious and horrible and didn't live up to your end of the contract, but that was his fault. Women are always going to find a way to blame men. Yeah, I saw this coming the moment I read that title, right? I knew women weren't going to take any responsibility. I knew this broad certainly wasn't going to, the quote-unquote authoress of this piece of drivel. He made lavish meals. What the hell is he doing cooking? I wonder, did she work also? Probably, yeah. But why is he the one cooking? Did you make more money than him? That probably more than anything else explains why he treated him so badly. He's not making more than me. He's beneath me. Yeah. Yeah. She didn't want to admit that to him, to us, to herself, right? Yeah. Because that would show how truly low and superficial and shallow she actually is. And then stared at me while I took my first bite. Whoa, this guy's a real people pleaser, huh? I found myself overperforming my pleasure with the food to validate him. So she's a people pleaser too. Okay, well, makes sense. Yeah. Only I doubt that he resented you. Oh, yeah. Yeah. He'd asked repeatedly if I liked it, so seeking validation. Guy sounds like a woman. When my performances failed to convince him. The marriage itself sounds like a performance. We had an implicit agreement. Implicit? Really? Was it implicit? Oh, unspoken, you mean? Yeah. So how do you know he had an agreement with you? I was implicit. Meaning they didn't communicate their wants, needs, and desires to the other person before they got married, so they're extremely irresponsible. We had an implicit agreement that I was responsible for his emotional state and it was exhausting. What is this? What do you mean implicit agreement? Did you gaslight him into believing that actually existed? When she says implicit, she actually means unspoken. So there was no agreement except in your head. So you created this faux category and then threw yourself into it to abdicate yourself from any and all responsibility for how horrible you felt, right? It was his fault, right? Yeah. We had this agreement. He had this expectation of me. So I went out of my way to fulfill that expectation. And it exhausted me. And that was his fault. But did you ever sit down with him and ask him what his expectations were? Nah. No. So it's your fault, really. But you blame him. I see. Okay. Admitting to myself that our dynamic was toxic was the catalyst I needed to push us both into therapy. If your dynamic is toxic, you shouldn't be married. It's really that simple. And therapy doesn't. I mean, does that really work? I haven't seen it. Usually therapy is a death knell of a relationship. Of course, sure. There are exceptions to the rule. There are outliers where two people went to therapy and it improved their marriage. But usually that's like based upon something that's easily fixed, like communication, right? Like you go to see a therapist and they act as kind of a referee and go between to safely communicate the wants, needs, and desires of one person to the other person. It's usually just to deal with very facile surface issues that are easily fixed. More fundamental problems, like differences in virtues and the things you value, those you cannot circumvent with therapy. Sorry, those require like actual change of the individual. This is just what they're talking about is just like a change in that dynamic of how they communicate, which sounds like there wasn't much of that going on yet. It also sounds like they were very similar people, and if they're still together after a long period of time, they probably had the same virtues as well, so they were compatible, just not communicating well. In those kind of situations, yeah, therapy can work. Where we could unpack and challenge all the nonsense our families of origin had modeled. Okay, see, there you go, I was right. And I don't read these stories beforehand, and I didn't read this one beforehand. So it was just a matter of communication, right? It wasn't anything fundamental or foundational. In those situations, therapy, it don't work. Okay. Oh, nonsense! Really? Let's see if this is a bunch of BS or not. It probably is. I was raised in a Southern conservative family with strict gender roles. I was expected to brush my hair. Oh my God! What's it? Really? So you felt an obligation to brush your hair. I don't understand this. I mean, isn't that good for you? I mean, you look good. And if you look good, you're going to feel better about yourself. You're going to know that you're presenting yourself in a positive way to the world. Isn't that good? Isn't that good for you? Isn't that good for your well-being? Doesn't that send a positive message to the world? Practice good hygiene. That's what she thinks is nonsense. Her family of origin model, brushing her hair. Oh yeah, you're so put upon, honey. Tuck in my shirt. What? First of all, what are you doing wearing shirts? Get yourself a dress, honey, okay? Get yourself a dress. Wear a dress. Be a feminine woman. What's wrong with tucking in your shirt? If you're a woman wearing pants, which most of them do, I can't remember the last time I saw a woman wearing a dress. Because, of course, they have to be men. They have to model themselves after men. Nah. They want to so change how they present to the world and act and interact with reality that they put on all these performative elements. And meanwhile, they want men to actually become more like women. even though they're working as hard as they possibly can to be as little like women as possible. Sort of a contrary messaging there. But anyway, and worship the men around me. Okay, hold on a second now. So you grew up in a religious family. So in strictly religious Christian families, generally speaking, there's a hierarchy, and so God, a man is in between woman and God. So they didn't actually teach you to worship men, but to worship God, right? But I can see how she might mistake the two. Of course, she's just trying to present, some of these examples in extreme a way as possible to make it seem like a bigger problem than it actually is, right? So she doesn't look so irrational in having an issue with these things. They wanted me to worship man as God. Oh, that's different. Okay, that's irrational. No, there's no Christian religion that says that. Sorry. There's no real sex education home or at school. Well, I mean, you should. So, my view of sex education, you shouldn't have it in schools. That's not the school's purview. It's not their responsibility. That's the parents' responsibility. And it's up to them to decide when to have that conversation with a child. And they should have that conversation. And when that conversation should happen, I think generally it should happen when the kid asks the question. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. If the kid is old enough or aware enough to ask the question, that's when you address it. But I basically earned a master's in what is expected of a woman. You earned a master's degree in what? My mother was... does she say? It doesn't say? That doesn't make any sense. My mother was chronic... So something useless. Even though nobody and no thing is stopping you from earning a useful degree. There's more women in universities than men. Universities pander to women. Try to give them everything they want, everything they desire, make them as comfortable as possible, but somehow you studied something that clearly you don't have much, very high estimation for. Okay. My mother was chronically responsible for my father's emotional state. Okay. Gonna give us any more details, like how? No. In addition to most of the housework and a full-time job. Well, who earned more money? The father or the mother? Did your parents sit down to discuss this beforehand? Did they look at each other's salaries and where their salaries might go in the future, which they should have some idea of, considering they have a certain understanding of the market that they are participating in and the value of the work they do and how much that increases in an incremental way. So they probably have a pretty good idea in 10 years what they'll be making. And they know what they're making now, so they couldn't sit down and negotiate who does what based on who brings in what to the household. That's how you really should do these things. It's called communication. You don't need a therapist for that unless you let it go for 10, 15 years. Then you got to bring some outsider in to referee the communication you should have had with your husband from the get-go. So it's your fault. Of course, he has some role to play here as well, being raised a simp mangina. But anyway, yeah. Oh, notice she makes, look at this. In addition to most of the housework, of course, she has an objection to housework. She's a feminist. You know, notice she doesn't have an objection to what are the traditionally male roles to fill. Work! Using the same argument the feminists use to say how housework is part of the patriarchy and it shackles them to the home. Men can make the same argument. Men are traditionally expected to go out, make a living. He's shackled to his work. So do you have a problem with his traditional roles? No. And duties within those roles? No. They benefit me, you see. There were no healthy mutual partnerships in my husband's upbringing either. His father was always in charge. He didn't learn very well, did he? Even if he didn't know what he was talking about. Did you grow up in that house? You clearly don't have a very favorable view of men, so you probably viewed the father, who was very strong and in charge and a leader figure, in the most negative way possible. So we can't trust your word. We can't trust your observations of his father as your father-in-law. They're very limited and biased. And he brutally dominated the family. Oh, brutally. Ooh. What do you mean? He spanked his kids? That's probably what she means. And he brutally dominated the family in any business contacts who crossed his path. So he was the take charge kind of guy. So she's going to see a strong, alpha, in-charge leader male as a negative, right? As one of 4 boys, my husband learned to revere female anatomy. but not to understand it. Oh, gosh, you got to down him, right? You got to Homer Simpson the guy, right? You got to Tim Taylor him, right? You got to portray him as a fool, right? Of course. Yeah. In therapy, we started to see our conditioning more clearly. How about your conditioning as a, nasty, toxic, malignant, narcissistic feminist? Probably wasn't called to task. I'm betting that the therapist was a woman. We learned we are each responsible for determining and communicating what we want. You didn't know that from the start? What the hell did you get married for? And for giving the other person the compassion and space to do the same. My husband learned to take everything less personally and to manage his feelings of rejection with a bit more grace. Why should he be getting rejected? I get married to get rejected? Who the hell are you? You think men get married because they want to get rejected? If I want to get rejected, I can go out. And if he wants to get rejected, he can go out and troll the bars and troll the grocery stores and try to communicate in person with socially awkward, socially retarded women who have spent their entire lives online, and he can get rejected dead. Because they spend so little time around people, they don't have the skills to pick up on the qualities and positive characteristics of someone in person. All they see is the facile, shallow aspects because they spent so much time on Tinder and Bumble and Instagram, which is kind of a glorified dating site these days, I think. We still work in therapy to untangle our codependent patterns and take responsibility for ourselves. Well, if you're that messed up, why are you even married? We're too old now. I've grown accustomed to the comfort I have, and despite what I might parrot about, I don't need no man. I don't want to pay all the bills. Yeah, I see. This new perspective allowed me to step into a leadership role in our life and home. Oh, God. You're in the leadership role. It sounds like you've always been in the leadership role, honey. Now you've just justified it to yourselves. I realized I want a true equal partnership. Well, then why are you the leader? How is that equal? I mean, by the way, that equality, equity crap in a relationship doesn't work because men and women are different. And they have different natural traits and characteristics that play out differently in terms of the role you take and objective reality. So you as the leader is just against nature. It's just against objective reality. It's against how the world works. You don't have those innate characteristics that are biologically determined to be that leader. Granted, they're like, again, are there outliers? Sure. But not too many. By the way, it sounds like he's still treating you like a queen. So I started to assert myself and worry less about his response. He got worse. You became an even more diehard feminista and just embraced your psychotic side, your psychopathy, and just stopped giving a crap about how he felt. Sounds like a great idea. My husband had to relearn his beliefs about leadership, too. He wasn't a leader before. And to accept how important it is to also be an enthusiastic follower. What is this? This is a bait and... this article's BS. This is BS. You know what this is? This is a bait and switch. That's all this is. They want to draw in some fence sitters, some moderate people, some people who are in the center who aren't yet decided, or even some people on the right, some R-pillars, and get them in here and then reprogram them, right? By clickbaiting you with this totally inaccurate false framing of what the article's actually about. My husband treated me like a queen, and it made me miserable. Yes, Huffington Post is disavowing being a white knight simp. No, it's not. This is total BS. This article is 100% Trojan horsing the idea that it's a positive, great thing to be a simp beta male. You're just trying to reprogram some people on the right. And maybe, capture some people who are undecided. What a bunch of crap this is. This is exactly what I would expect from Huffington Post. Oh, the man needs to be a follower. Does he? Does he really? Needs to follow a woman? Let's check this guy out again. Let's look at his facial hair. So it's very sparse. Okay, we got a guy here that's a low T guy. All right? Low T. Look at that facial hair. It's like most of his face has sparse hair on it. He couldn't grow a proper beard if his life depended on it. He's not losing any hair at all, so he's got low T, low testosterone. Okay, so he's a low T, weak, wimpy dude, more feminine than masculine. So sad. Our new healthier marriage. Oh, it's healthier. Who? Who says? You say? Because he's actually treating you more like a queen now. You're the leader. What about king? What about him being a king? Right? I love this. No kings. Queens are the most powerful piece on the chessboard. Did you know that? Healthier marriage. From whose perspective? Your perspective? Because now you are firmly, solidly in charge, where before, you actually had emotions and empathy towards your husband, and now this new relationship dynamic has allowed you to throw all of your concern and care for his feelings out the window. Wow, that's great. Yeah, don't go to therapy, people. I told you it don't work. Once the relationship has reached a point where you need therapy, it's either over or it's just going to make it worse because it's totally, completely gynocentric and one-sided in favor of the women. Our new healthier marriage requires that I confront him regularly. Oh, wow. I'm sure that works out great. Yeah, well, he's in the submissive role, so he wants to be confronted. This sounds like a BDSM relationship. Oh, she's in the dominant role, and he's the masochist, yeah. Yeah, I confront him regularly and elbow my perspective onto the table for consideration. Yeah, meaning before, she was trying to fit into a role she just couldn't fit in as a wife, and she wasn't in any way, shape, or form traditional, but she was trying to be more traditional than she is now, and it just didn't feel right. Yeah, because you got the feminist ideology pounded into your freaking head, and it's totally, completely at odds with the way you were raised. So yet again, the state has more effectively, meaning imparted their ideology and worldview onto the child than the parents, which is what the state wants, right? They want useful tax chattel idiots like this broad. Don't stay home and raise your own kiddies and impart your values to them and deprive us of the opportunity to program them to be useful idiot sheeple that'll do what they say. Oh no! Don't do that! Since we were both raised to prioritize only his. What are you talking about? Sounds like the first 10 years of your marriage, all you thought about was yourself. I love the self-gaslighting. What's going on here? And the gaslighting coming from the therapist. It was during one of these pivotal confrontations that I accidentally sparked the best thing that ever happened to our sex life. Oh, yeah, because you're a hedonist. And you don't have much, if any, real connection with your husband. There's no real bonding going on here. I bet her body count was in the triple digits by the time she married this guy. It's all about your own self-pleasure and yourself and hedonism, which is exactly why you have a total, complete 100% problem with giving him the carnal pleasure that he needed, desired, and is actually part and parcel of your duty as a wife to give him. Because you're also a narcissist and you're a hedonist and you don't care about anybody else but yourself, right? And you also recognize that if his needs are something that have as high a priority as your needs, and you actually care about fulfilling those needs, then that gives him power, that gives him equal hand in the relationship, and you don't want that, so you don't want equality at all. Typical feminist. We occasionally read notification books at the same time, book club style, and one day I confronted him about his recommendations. What recommendations are those? I complained that he was in an echo chamber of white men, oh Lord, who don't acknowledge patriarchy or white supremacy. Okay, first of all, what are you talking about? So you want matriarchy, right? Yeah, she's one of these people. They don't want equality, right? That's not what feminists argue about. Feminists are like, we need positive discrimination, so we need to give women privileges that are totally, completely unearned, but they are earned because we were oppressed. So because I'm a victim in the past, we should have these positive rights, privileges that favor only us so we can get equity, equality of outcome. Well, now they've got no equality. They're superior to us in every way. They're overrepresented in every white-collar field, and certainly in universities, education. And what was it, 147 of America's 150 biggest cities, they make more money than men. I mean, I don't think anybody can argue that women are not, given privileges, favored positively in court, in divorce court, when they come to crime. They don't believe in equality. Give me a break. What patriarchy? Where's the patriarchy, yo? I mean, you could argue that men are still, enforcing the laws, the rules, and the rights, and yeah, but women have control of those men, right? And those men are controlled by men who have a very different agenda, and they're controlling the vast majority of the population through the woman. What patriarchy are you talking about? The global elite cabal that wants a world population of 500 million, and wants to rule over us all. It's much easier to do that if everybody is consolidated onto one landmass, and the world's population is comprised of a much smaller number, i.e. less people are easier to control, especially if they're occupying one particular mass of land. White supremacy. Oh yeah, it's evil for white people to rule in white countries. Or the privilege they receive from those systems. What do you mean privilege? When I think of privilege, I think of actual privilege, which is like you earned it. Privilege they receive from those systems. I mean, those are their systems, right? Shouldn't they get privileges? They created those systems, right? They fund them, right? I couldn't get past the ignorance to receive the lessons of the books. I told him. So yet again, you're blaming him for your inability to learn and grow as a person. I see. How much more of this garbage is there? Oh, God. I don't think I can read anymore. I got to fast forward here. All right, so let's get past the propaganda she's recommending we read, and all of this is propaganda just to change you from a fence sitter or a right-winger to a fence sitter, and then they can more easily in the future, convince you to join their team, right? To go ever more left. So, okay, so let's see her ending, which is probably going to try and make her seem less polarized toward radical ideology, the radical ideology of feminism and the left. There is no radical feminism. Feminism itself is radical and malignant. There is no first, second, third, fourth wave. There's just feminism, okay? I know honorable men everywhere are treating women like sex goddesses and queens. Well, your husband is treating you even more like one because he gave you total, complete rule over the relationship and him. Talk about total lack of self-awareness that she thinks her relationship has done the opposite. But I'm pretty sure that misses the point. Now, what is the point, lady? If the goal is a reciprocal sexy partnership, but you don't have, it's totally one-sided. You have all the power. He's the follower, right? And you could say, well, then the other way is right as well. No, because then the woman is falling into her role, right, as the follower, and he's the leader. And in that role as the follower, she is in a unique position to influence him to a certain extent. Meaning she doesn't have no power. She has quite a bit of power as well, but somebody's got to be a tiebreaker, right? But in that role, if you put a man in that role, he's not suited to being there. That's not where he's supposed to be. So he doesn't function well in that role, and neither does she. If the goal is to be a reciprocal, sexy partnership, yeah, because all you care about is sex, right? Yeah. No, you really care about control and power because you're postmodernist. No one really needs the royal treatment. Well, you do. You need to be in charge, right? Oh, I thought everything was equal. I know about equity. I'm grateful to have learned it was actually standing in the way of my husband, in the way of what my husband and I really wanted. What are you talking about? Oh, she's gaslighting herself. So you're saying that your husband before treated you like a queen, and it just wasn't deserved or earned, so you treated him like crap in return, and now you're even more of the queen because you're in charge of everything, but he's not pandering or catering to you as much. He just lets you make all the decisions and run the show, just so long as he's not, I mean, I don't know what she's saying here. I'd be willing to bet that he's still doing a lot of the same simpy white knight garbage, right? But she deserves it now, right? She doesn't feel like it's undeserved and in turn resent him, right? Because now she's running things. She has the majority of the responsibility, which is totally completely wrong because she's abdicating that and blaming everything on him, and I bet she still does. But now in her mind, she's running the show. So, any simpy white knight pandering, pedestalizing her behavior, it's earned. It's deserved because I'm the man now, which is really what feminists want. Yeah. So it's all in her head. All the issues, all the problems she's had in her marriage are her fault, including why this guy is acting like a simpy, wimpy, blue pill beta male. And that caused a lot of problems in the relationship, too, because ultimately, the beta males, the simps, the beta bucks, the lucks, the weak blue pill men are the fault of women, because women have been spending the past 20, 30 years telling men, this is what we want. We want you to be more like a woman. Men are toxic. Male character traits are toxic. Masculinity is toxic. Be more feminine. We'll give you more poon. We'll give you more of a JJ if you just act more in accordance with feminist ideology. Meaning be in touch more with your emotions and act more feminine. Because, you know, everybody's got yin and yang. Men have a feminine side too. BS. We do not. And women have a more masculine side, so it's just women embracing their masculine more to be more balanced, and men are embracing their feminine more to be more feminine. And of course, in their minds, deep down, they think that, you know, a 50-50 representation of each is, you know, where it's at. That's the way to go. So men need to be 50% feminine, 50% masculine. That goes by their own ideology. That goes by their own ideology, which boils everything down to equity, to equality of outcome, to sameness, to embracing your feminine, embracing your masculine, equally. That's the only conclusion you can come to. They worship at the altar of same. Oh, and yet at the same time, they embrace diversity of, of race. A difference is there. But when it comes to mindset, when it comes to thought, when it comes to ideas, which are much more important, much more powerful, notice there too, they adhere to same. We have the equal same ideas. We have the same principles. We embrace both our masculine and our feminine, and it makes us better people. No, it makes you worse, because that's total nonsense, BS crap, hippy dippy BS. Oh, man. Yeah, anyway, she goes on to say, I'm not a queen or goddess. No, but no, you are actually the queen of the house, right? It's not king anymore, right? Remember, it used to be the man is the king of the castle. Well, now that's gone. That's misogynistic. It excludes the woman. Now she's the queen. It's BS when she says she's not the queen. She is the queen, and that's what she wanted all along. Total obedience from him. Total loyalty and worship from him. Right? She just, that's all she wanted, right? Yeah. And she wanted to be in total complete control and be running the show and have all the responsibilities and duties, at least in her mind. And then that would justify his kowtowing, pathetic, vacillating nature to her, right? Because then it would be deserved. Wow, this woman, I think she rates like a 10 on the neuroticism scale, if you were to scale it that way. So I'm a person with a body, and so is he. The hell does that have to do with anything? All right, you're both equal, right? Whoa, same again. We have so much more pleasure than when we acknowledge that. Yeah, because life's all about pleasure, right? Yeah, chasing pleasure for pleasure's sake. Okay. Yeah. Love it. So even, say, yeah, the left can't do it, right? The left can't do it. You can't go by the title. The truth of the matter is, because this title is so anathema to the messages that HuffPost has put out in the past, that it's going to draw you in, it's going to make you read it, and then she's trying to smuggle the cultural Marxist, feminist, same thing, message into your brain and get you off the fence and get you to go left, all right? They're trying to stealth deliver their ideology now by trying to appear like they're appealing to the same values as people on the right and people that believe in traditional values. And then they use that to try and be sneaky and subtle in the way they deliver their message. So you'll be more likely to be sympathetic down the line to their worldview. And again, they might get some people to come over to their side. So there you go. There you go. Nothing surprising there. The left continuing to be the degenerate left. So, let me know what you think in the comments section about this bad faith, disingenuous, dishonest, sneaky crap. Is this emblematic of the left and feminism? Yes. Let me know what you think, and please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment. It's good for the algorithm. Also, follow me on alt tech platforms. You'll see the alt tech platforms in question at the top of the screen. I am the Realist Philosopher on both of those platforms. Also, if you would, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Whatever you could afford to donate, if anything, would be greatly appreciated. And on that note, I am the Bachelor Philosopher, also known as the Realist Philosopher, and I wish you all a good and pleasant day. Take care.